I had them all long before I dial up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. I had them all long before I dial up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in, but don't you dare give up now. Poe believed in me, pull up through some bucks down. Todd told the valet pull the truck round. Push the line after we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And name the best from my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind. Rapping like your Spotify, tap you rappers compromise. Yeah, no need to panic, just paint the canvas. If you can feel the static, it's too close, find your balance. Embed the revolution for they prohibition bandwidth. Blood trickle from the lead to see what's planted. I had them all line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. Boy, that death like the amps.
Greetings. Where in the world is the... There we go. Hey, there we go.
Hey.
I was wondering where we were. So confusing. What's going on, hon?
I'm doing fine. What's going on with you?
Good.
Yeah. Trying to step it up a little bit. Yep.
Oh, good. I just noticed.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, it's going to be date night for real soon.
Oh, yeah.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Luqman Nation in Black Power Media.
The most dangerous show on social media, on the most dangerous platform on social media ever.
So, look, let us know, folks, if the sound quality is good. We've been working out some audio issues. We hope that everything is all right. Let us know if you're not able to hear and all this kind of good stuff. And look, we appreciate y'all. It is Friday Dope Date Night.
Dope Date Night.
Yes.
Yep.
And we are so excited about tonight. But before we get started in our conversation, we want to remind you to hit the like button. If you are watching, hit the like button. We need you to hit the like button because this is how we tell the algorithm, man, that it has to give us our props. So hit the like button. Don't just sit there and watch like this is free. It's not free. You have to do some work. Hit the like button for us, man. Yes, we appreciate that. I have no idea what that was. I was just channeling one of the ancestors.
That's fine. Yep.
But and as usual, not just hit the like button, subscribe, share, and join. If you are not a member of Black Power Media, you can support Black Power Media, become a member, and get some special perks from us here in Black Power Media for just $4.99 a month. You can also find Black Power Media and support the channel through Patreon. You can find Black Power Media on Patreon at patreon.com/Black Power Media.
Yep, and thanks to all you guys out there for really supporting Black Power Media. Those of us who participate in BPM, those of us who have content on BPM, we had the meetings of the minds. And as we met together with all of us who are contributors to BPM, Black Power Media, hey, look, I mean, Black Power Media is doing great. And the credit goes to you guys out there who's been supporting us, those of you who have became members, those of you who are subscribed, those of you, and please visit our Patreon too, Patreon of Black Power Media. We have so much that we would like to do. And then when we had the meeting, I mean, just the vision, people, just the vision that Black Power Media wants to do, that all of us that's part of Black Power Media. I mean, we want to bring you a quality product. We want to bring you quality media. This is what we're here for. And so look, please hit our Patreon, hit the membership. If you're not a member already, invite people
Mm-hmm.
to come view these streams. I mean, because not only are we trying to bring you quality product, but we're also we're also part of this revolution too. We're activists too. So
Right.
so it's not just about sitting behind these mics and trying to look pretty, even though we do. But on the other hand, so it's not just that, but it's also that we are part of a larger movement. So please, this is what we're here for. But we would like to thank you for making Black Power Media a success.
Absolutely. And, look, if you have not looked at the content earlier today, Jared Ball did a segment on has the MOBP, the myth and propaganda of Black buying power, been co-opted.
Mm-hmm.
Check that out on the channel. It's a great segment. You have to check that out. And after our show, our girl, our friend, our comrade, Dr. Sharice Burden-Stelly, Dr. CBS, will follow us at 7 p.m. with the last dope intellectual, and she's the best dope intellectual as far as we're concerned. And we see that a couple of segments of Sundays,
Right.
Black Power Media spin program hosted by Ear Doctor are coming up in the
Right.
next couple of days. He usually comes on at 7 between 8 and 9 p.m.
Right.
Eastern Standard Time. Ear Doctor on the turntables, really, really good stuff. So lots and lots of stuff for you here in Black Power Media. Okay, so this week has been really crazy. Oh, wait, I always forget to do this.
And what is that? To
shout out folks who are on the stream, our family who has joined us on our Friday Dope Date Night. Lisa Catlett, Deborah Rodriguez, David Silberg, Jabarian, Arif Hassan, Goddess Crew, let's see, Marcus Lewison.
Easy D, always Easy D.
Sugar Booger 7. Hey, Sugar Booger.
Yep.
Big Teal. Easy D, Anthony, Ricky Ryan, fam, what's up? Del Esandero, sorry, that got that wrong. And everyone who is lurking, who we can't see, who's just watching, welcome. Thanks for joining us. We appreciate y'all.
We do.
This week, man.
Yeah, this week. This week
has been, of course, the big news this week was the mass murder in Atlanta.
Yes, yep.
And there's so much tied into that, right? And people are, of course, the cop. The first thing was the cop who gets, he's the spokesperson for the police department down there. I think it's called the Cherokee County Police.
Yeah.
It's called Cherokee County, y'all.
Right.
And these white people down there. Anyway, this spokesperson for the police department down there, in doing the news conference, after they apprehend this mass murdering bastard alive, mind you.
Yes.
So yet another example.
Uh-huh.
Yet another example of how the police are perfectly capable.
Right.
Of taking dangerous people alive.
Right. Mass murderers.
Mass murderers just committed a mass murder.
Right.
And was on his way to by his own admission of going to another state to kill some more people.
Right. Yet they took him in alive.
I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they did that.
There was no, I'm fearing for my life.
None of that. They were not afraid of him, and they were able to take him alive. And so then the cops, the pig, gets on, the press conference and, we've taken the suspect alive and whatever the murderer's name is. I don't know. I don't like remembering their names. But the cop says, he was just having a difficult time and he was having a bad day and that's why he did this. And when I heard that, I of course was like, oh, here comes the bullshit. Right? Here comes the white people covering for white people,
right,
killing non-white people,
right,
and then turning around and saying it's not racial.
Yeah,
because that's the he didn't do this because of anti-Asian hatred.
No, of course not.
Interestingly, though, 6 of the 8 people who were killed were not only Asian but were women.
Right.
And we're going to get into that in a minute because there's so much in this this thing. Here's this 21-year-old white man who, what the entire fuck are you that mad about in life?
I mean, and I think we had spoke about this before, but I can't help every time they put this guy's picture on the TV. I mean, if you looked in the dictionary for loser,
it would.
I mean, this guy. I'm saying, like, wow, he would have a lot of grievances.
I don't even want to show his picture now, but since you brought it up, I have to find it. Now I gotta find
put his ass out there. Yeah, let the world see, some of the crap that humanity can put forward.
I mean, the whole thing with who this guy is. Here you go. Let me see if I can.
There's the master race. There, let's see the master race.
Hold on. Let me see if I can. Yeah.
There he is. There he is.
All right. Let's share it because you told me I should. Okay.
There's the member. Where's he at?
Nope, not there. Where is that thing? Wait, where did it go? There we go.
Oh, do we have him?
Yeah, I got it.
All right.
Since you told me I have to.
Well, I mean, hey, look, why protect him? There, look at him.
There he is.
A very fine example of Aryan superiority. Look at this guy.
Aryan superiority.
Yep, look at him. Wow.
Oops. What am I doing?
Yep.
I'm pressing all the wrong buttons. There we go. That's what I meant to do. That's it. Okay. There we go.
Look at that.
Yeah, that's the guy who shot up.
Yep. He wants his country back. Look at this guy. He wants his country back. He wants it back. Look how pitiful he look. He wants it back.
21-year-old, sweaty, greasy, looking like he crawled out the woods. Grizzly Adams' son looking asshole right here. He shot up several massage parlors.
Yeah, that he frequented now.
They think that he allegedly frequented.
Yeah,
and so there's all of this demonization of first of all these places of business as like covert human trafficking, sex operations.
Yeah.
There's no evidence of that. Then there's the demonization of these women who were murdered as sex workers.
Mm-hmm.
There's no evidence of that. But let's make something clear. Even if they were sex workers, so the fuck what?
Right.
So what?
Right. I mean, that shouldn't be a death sentence.
And then this is the part of this thing that now he didn't even live like in the neighborhood where these businesses existed.
No.
He lived like 30 miles north of where he ultimately went on his killing spree.
Yeah, somewhere like bumfuck Georgia somewhere.
I mean, like 30 miles north of Atlanta. Right. So he had to travel quite a ways for quite a minute to get to these places. Now, if he was just having a bad day, and look, we're not advocating that anybody go on a killing spree. It's just that if he were just having a bad day and this were not about racism, then there were a whole lot of businesses and a whole lot of people in between his house and where he eventually ended up and where he was going to go to, in another state in Florida for him to. But why did he choose massage parlors that were owned and run and staffed by Asian people? Come on, man. These people are sitting there talking about it's not racism.
But they say it's not racism because he said that.
Because he said it's not racism. Right.
Because he said it was about
racism. No, it's not racism.
Okay, well, I guess we'll take your word for it. It's not racist.
But then what they did take his word for was that, well, I did it because I had a sex addiction.
Oh, man. Wow.
Okay, look. let me just say, first of all, I am not diminishing any type of addiction, and I'm certainly not diminishing sex addiction, because I've seen people say, oh, there's no such thing as sex addiction. Listen, you can be addicted to anything. Shopping, you can be addicted to shopping, you can be addicted to food, you can be addicted to drugs, alcohol,
Right.
television, video games. You can certainly be addicted to sex.
Right.
So I'm not diminishing, sex addiction as a thing.
Right.
I just understand that in this dude's case, this sex addiction
Mm-hmm.
thing, it's bullshit.
Well, of course
It's
it
bullshit.
is. Of course it is.
And let's dig into why.
Mm.
Because this guy is, at first I heard that he was the son of a youth pastor. Now, I don't know if that is true or not. But what we do know is true is that he was very active in his local conservative evangelical Christian church.
Everybody says that they know him.
Right. He was very active in the youth ministry in the church. And this is not the point at which the Luqmans are going to demonize Christianity, because if you didn't know before now, I'm a Christian. He used to be an imam. He's somewhere along he's very spiritual. I don't know. He's the spiritual guru of Luqman Nation. So, labels, we're kind of getting away from that. So our goal here is not to demonize religion, anybody's spiritual faith, and certainly not the Christian faith, because we understand that Christianity has its roots in Africa.
Right.
So, but I also understand, coming from a Southern Baptist kind of upbringing and having gone to church in these conservative, and by conservative, I do mean politically conservative.
Right. Like Jerry Falwell-ish type.
Right. These conservative Christian environments, that these people have a particular perspective on sex and sexual expression that I can absolutely see fuck this kid's head up. Aside from him being clearly an expression of white supremacist patriarchal violence, that's absolutely what's going on here. And yes, this definitely is a part of that wave of anti-Chinese racism that we've seen coming out of the U.S. government.
Right.
I think that's absolutely true, but I think that we have to be careful that we don't underestimate the influence that the conservative Christian messaging and teaching on this purity culture has in this whole mess. Because what happens is these people, and you and I have experienced this, right? And here's the funny thing. Like, we got married, I was 45 years old. You were 46.
Yep.
And, these people preach this idea of sexual purity in a way that is just abnormal. And I had to see this for myself,
I mean, this is just not white led churches. No, it's also within some black.
It's also within some black churches that have signed on to this conservative kind of prosperity gospel televangelist type of thing, where they view sex outside of marriage as sinful altogether, right? And should be avoided at all costs. And then there is the idea that any sexual urges at all are dirty. And they need to be controlled. And this is not something that, they just teach adults. This is what they teach in youth ministry, right? When young girls and young boys are active in youth ministries and a lot of these conservative churches, they're teaching kids that basic normal sexual urges are sinful.
And
they need to be controlled.
Well, it's very much rooted in the puritanical Christian roots that go way back in this country. I mean, even past the Victorian age. It just comes up from all of the sexually demonized interpretations of the Catholic Church, and then when the Catholic Church morphed into the Protestant Church, and you still had this, and then let's look at it this way too. Not only did it demonize sexual activity, but it was very much rooted in how can I put it? Persecution of women.
That and that's where I want to get to,
Right.
because this has always been, my big huge beef with this whole purity gospel. That's what I call it, but it's really this doctrine of purity that you will get in a lot of very conservative churches, black and white. So what they do is they like separate boys and girls from a very early age, so that boys and girls don't mature together. They don't learn how to socialize and interact with each other in healthy ways. Boys are in one space being taught that, you should look at girls as your sisters until you're ready to marry them. Well, what kind of thing does that put in a kid's head when he's looking at all girls as his sister?
Right.
And then all of a sudden he's supposed to turn that off and be like physically, romantically, sexually attracted to one so that he can marry her. That makes no sense.
Well, I mean, but you find this being common amongst all conservative expressions of religion. Certainly Islam and Judaism, have the separation of the sexes. And some very more extreme examples or interpretations of Islam, I mean, have it where you can't even shake a woman's hand, or if you do shake a woman's hand, you have to cover your hand, and and then you have religious cultures that if a woman comes on her menstrual cycle, she can't be with the family, as practiced in certain Judaism sects. So I mean, Jewish sects. So I mean, so you always find when you have these conservative interpretations of what God wants, then it's always the woman that always have to bear the brunt.
Always. And we look at Christian culture. Those are great examples of this kind of demonization of women along the lines of just our gender, just our sexual expression, because we definitely see it in Christianity where, while the boys are taught that, you shouldn't look at a girl as a sexual object, and they misinterpret a scripture that says if you look at a woman lustfully, then you've committed adultery already. Oh, Jesus Christ. That's just ridiculous.
Well, that doesn't even make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. But then girls are taught that we have to cover ourselves from like neck to ankle, that we can't wear tight-fitting clothes, that the very curves of our body that God created are so tempting to men that it's our job. It is our responsibility to not tempt men into seeing us in a sexualized way.
Right.
So we have to always remain covered up. We have to always be very demure and deferential, and we can't call attention to ourselves. And there's this whole submission culture too.
Right. Well, I mean, since we're dealing with Asians, though, I mean, when it comes to the submission culture, I mean, the Asian culture, and I won't say culture, but the way that Asian women are objectified, especially in Western culture, as being demure and submissive, and the so-called geisha girls and all this stuff.
Right.
And then, I mean, even some of that had even entered into pop culture, where with these very same massage parlors, the happy ending, all this other kind of stuff, which is nobody goes to a black braiding shop looking for a happy ending.
Nobody ever accuses the braid salon of giving happy endings in the back. Nobody ever. It's just Asian.
So it's objectifying Asian women, like all women are objectified in some form or fashion, but through but this is a uniquely Western thing when it comes to objectifying Asian women as being these sexual objects that are just there for the pleasure of mainly white men.
Mainly white men. You're right.
Yep.
I mean, and where does that connect to? That connects to the Western, the history of Western imperialism and Western hegemony and warmongering against Asian countries, where I don't care if it's Korea or Japan or Thailand. I don't care where, the Philippines.
Well, where does a lot of the sex tourism go? So I mean, so you talk about a lot of Asian countries and Asian women being victims of the sex tourist trade, which is heavily supported by Western tourists. You know what I mean? So you have Western tourists that go over there on these sex tourism journeys, and again, it's this objectification of Asian women, the mail order bride, and all this other kind of stuff. And let's be clear, a lot of this objectifying of women, a lot of it is rooted in economic insecurities, because the mail order bride stuff, a lot of the women that participate in the mail order bride, not just them, the Russian women, other women, a lot of it is because they're trying to escape poverty. I know a lot of guys that I know that was in the Navy who went to the Philippines and talk about how how easy it was, unfortunately, to get involved in the sex trade in the Philippines. How you have family members who would try to sell their daughter for economic reasons. So I mean, this is, I mean, Africa, but we're talking about Asians now. But this is a problem all over the world when it comes to women and like you said, these beliefs. I mean, look at the United Nations. The United Nations is under fire right now in Africa, in Haiti, and in the Dominican Republic and other places for trading food for sex.
Right.
Right. So so it's a bad problem.
And it is a problem that is rooted in imperialism, that creates these Western and U.S. imperialism invades and destabilizes all of these countries to get their resources, and then they create these unstable economies. They plunge millions of people into poverty. People can't feed and support themselves and their families, and then people end up having to do these kinds of desperate things, forced into these situations, a lot of instances, by going right back to Western imperialism.
Right. And nobody's saying that nobody wants white guys. Listen, when if you're coming up here, listen.
Wait.
No, I'm just saying, because I'm not going to jump to any assumptions. It's probably just a stupid question. But what I'm saying is that nobody is saying that nobody wants white guys. What we're saying is that Western culture fetishizes, right?
Right.
A lot of things when it comes to poor women of color.
Right.
I mean, this fetishizing of objectifying, fetishizing. So this is rooted, getting back to our topic, this is rooted in what this guy claims to have been striking out against.
Right. The temptations. Right. First of all, the fact that his explanation that he had a sex addiction was explained away as him getting rid of the temptation that fed his sex addiction, and the very idea that women existing is a temptation to him.
Right.
Just in any context. But if that were true, why was it only Asian women that he killed?
Well, I mean, this is a very familiar narrative when it comes to these so-called lone wolves. It's a very familiar narrative of white men putting upon themselves. How can I put it? It's rooted in the white man's burden somewhat, but it's like white men feeling that they are somehow give themselves the right to change whatever they seem to be against what they find to be something that they don't like. Let's just make it simple.
Yeah.
So I mean, so you have Dylan Roof, and the reason why I bring this back, because you talk about how law enforcement explain these things away. Well, I mean, look what the judge said when Dylan Roof was in front of him. Oh, he comes from a good family, and then chastises the families of the victims by saying, "Don't give these people a hard time.
Right, you need to forgive them because they're having a hard time."
Exactly. So we see that that there's a double standard when it comes to. First of all, we already laid out the double standard. There's a double standard in the way that white mass murderers somehow can be arrested alive. So that's one double standard. The other double standard is that, first of all, he is innocent until proven guilty. That's something we don't get.
Right.
So so the press conference is, oh, wait a minute, we can't say that this is a hate crime. We got to investigate this. And besides, he said it wasn't. So I guess we just take his word for it. But when it came to Ahmaud Arbery, when it came to a lot of victims of gun violence, it was it was the way they acted, or they were so it's always justifying why we die.
Right.
It's never society's fault. It's never the people. I mean, remember when Ahmaud Arbery was murdered? The first thing was that, well, he was looking in the house, and then so there was no, it was and then these guys are good guys. One of them was on a police force.
They were just neighborhood watch, and this suspicious black man was going through an unfinished house.
Right. After they done showed videotape of plenty of people going through there, but
none of them got shot.
Right, but this is and then, like you said, the fact that it coincides with the attacks recently that's been happening around with Asian Americans. So I mean, so it's not a coincidence, And what happened was, this guy, he just wasn't honest. He says that, oh well, it was a sexual addiction. No. You was trying to continue this racist ass war that you felt was against Asian Americans at the time, which was stoked by right-wing propaganda, stoked by Trump, calling the coronavirus the China virus and the Wuhan virus and all this. Look, Jack, do you remember when the coronavirus first started really being a thing here in this country? You and I noticed that the fear that the Asian community had even then, because they were closing their shops up for a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, they were closing their shop because they were expecting the backlash of this pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, and we had several conversations as we were driving through the neighborhoods, like, man, why are all these, other than, other businesses that were like the carryouts and stuff, that most of them stayed open, but a few did not. And, we realized, wait, some of these people are afraid. Yep. And, thankfully, we have not had any of those incidents in DC, I don't believe. But
black people, come on.
Mostly.
We that's not our thing. We do that to each other, but it's not, and that's unfortunate. I mean, we don't usually strike out against other communities like that. The way that that we've seen other communities do. We usually reserve that for each other. As somebody said, we get real violent when it comes to each other. But
but we give a whole lot of real deferential to other folks. But
I don't want to see anybody get violent to another community unless they get violent with us. But my point being is, Ricky Ryan is right. This whole new Cold War, which has ramifications of so what's going to play out here, Jackie, is I think that what we're going to see that you don't hear anything about what's happening with Dylan Roof. I know he's locked up for life, whatever. But we're going to see how law enforcement treats this guy. He's going to get the psychiatrist. He's going to get all of the goodies that the justice system have for white suspects. He's going to get all that. Look, this is one thing too that we need to be conscious of, that I see coming. Watch how much financial support this guy gets. Dylan Roof got hundreds of thousands of dollars for his defense.
So did Kyle Rittenhouse.
Right. So watch how this is really what's going to tell the story here. Watch how much support this boy get.
And where a lot of that support is going to come from? It's going to come from those good church folk. It's going to come from those good Christian church folk who do not want to deal with the racism and the sexism that they harbor in their churches. Because one of the things that I have seen with my own eyes in some of the churches that I have been members of that were more politically conservative, that I thought, when I was joining, hey, they're diverse, they're, Asian people and, Black people, but then you get into the church and you hear all this ridiculous, politically conservative stuff from the pulpit. Asian women, there's this whole submission doctrine, ideology, with women in relationships that they preach, that women are supposed to be submissive, and they take, first of all, they never tell you about the whole scripture that we're supposed to submit to each other. That's what the whole scripture says. But they always talk about women are supposed to be submissive to men and that kind of thing. And because of this white supremacist stereotyping of Asian women, this Orientalism that men still harbor, you see in some of these diverse conservative Christian communities that Asian women are almost fetishized. Why? Because they are the models of submission.
Right. Well, yeah, and you're right when you said earlier that has its roots in mainly British imperialism, and the way that white supremacy wants to put everybody in their racist box.
Right.
Right. This is the way that they interact with the world.
So this whole messed up ideology of imperialism and Orientalism, racism, patriarchy, sexism, gender oppression, all of it, the white supremacist interpretation of Christianity, all of it plays into this mass shooting in Atlanta. And we have to be very, very clear that all aspects of it are a part of this sick U.S. capitalist society.
Right.
And that the church is just as complicit in the mess that we're all seeing as, capitalists and militarism. Because, and speaking of the church and women and sexuality and all this kind of stuff. So, okay, the Grammys just happened.
Okay. Yep.
And we didn't watch. We didn't watch the Grammys because we don't care.
I haven't watched the Grammys, and this is a shame. Now y'all can come with the old jokes because I have not watched the Grammys. I think I saw the Grammys one time when what's that child's name? Taylor Swift.
What?
I'm saying when Kanye got on stage.
Wow, that was the last time you watched
because I don't care about who they celebrate. It's all to me. It's a fraud. The best music don't win. So it's all a popularity contest. So I did see Kendrick Lamar's performance.
Okay, I was about to ask you.
Yeah, I did see that.
Okay.
But I mean, for real, I could care less. I mean, it's just a popularity contest. If it was based upon what it used to be about, that like really celebrating art, then they would have kept me. But now it's all about popularity. So I don't care.
Yeah, I mean the Grammys is the capitalist systems. Another one of the capitalist systems award shows awarding.
Oh, okay. Ricky Ryan said that was a music award. Well, that's what I saw.
What?
It was the Video Music Awards.
Was it the Video Music Awards?
Whatever it was, that's what I saw.
They're all the same. I don't know. But anyway.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Whichever capitalist entertainment award show happened this past week, whatever it was, Grammys, Video Music Awards, I don't know. There was a big controversy about Nicki Minaj and Megan Thee Stallion and their performance of their song WAP.
Okay.
Which is short for wet ass pussy. That this is our show, we can say these things.
Right.
So
as if y'all didn't know.
As if you didn't know. Now look, full disclosure. I like the song because it's catchy and it's fun. He does not like the song just because he's old school hip hop kind of dude. And he just doesn't like a lot of stuff that comes out. But, I will be in the kitchen, cooking dinner, trying to twerk and can't do it because I have arthritis. So, but there was this big controversy about the song. Who who did I say? I didn't say Cardi. Who did I say? Whichever it was.
Cardi B it was, right?
Yeah, Cardi B. What did I say?
You said Nicki Minaj.
Nicki Minaj, Lord have mercy.
Right.
I see we're middle-aged and we honestly don't care about these people.
Right.
So they all look the same to me. They're almost interchangeable. And not because I have any personal disrespect for them. It's just honestly because all their shit sounds the same to me. Nicki Minaj, Cardi B, I don't care. But anyway, so and it's okay to laugh at me at that. That was a terrible, terrible faux pas. Sorry about that. But anyway, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion in their song Wet Ass Pussy. Ooh.
Right.
Scary thing. Oh, wet ass pussy. And apparently it is kind of terrifying for a lot of people because people were just up in arms about this thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm seeing people who are my age who, number one, can't criticize bad music without personally disparaging these women, which is a serious problem. And I understand that also comes from this ridiculous Christian indoctrination that we have that is so puritanical. Like, y'all ain't never, ever heard of or seen a pussy before.
Right.
What is wrong with you? You came out of one. What the hell? Then there's this thing about, people our age who are like, oh my God, the way Black women express themselves and, they're acting like whores and, they're just denigrating Black women and it's just so unseemly and, music is just garbage these days and our music used to be so much better. It's like people have never heard of Millie Jackson.
Millie Jackson.
I just don't. It's like they don't forget all of the vile and disgusting cuss words that Richard Pryor became an icon of.
But and again, things don't stay the same. One of the constant things in life is that things change. But to be fair, you had to really sneak into your mama's album collection when she was asleep at work to hear Millie Jackson. You had to stay home from school like I did, invite your friends over and play a bicentennial nigga, Richard Pryor.
Yep.
So there weren't communication, pardon me. The outlets for these things were very limited,
That's
so
true. That's true.
Yeah, you're right. We've always had the Cardi B's. We always had this risque. You and I was listening to a song that, on the radio show that we listened to that played the oldies, and they were talking, this was back in the 40s, and you had a woman talking about a dentist treating her right, and we all knew what that was about.
He had to come and drill me.
Yeah, right.
During the day.
Yep, drill me during the night. Yeah, so we
come
always,
in the afternoon because he can drill me. Come on, what do you think?
So
she's getting that many root canals? Come
right.
on
So we've always, had that type of entertainment. I think now, like anything else, is that we're saturated now with media. We're saturated with, you can't turn it off. And I think that's the response that people have towards this is that, 20 years ago, I didn't have to listen to Wet Ass Pussy. I could ignore Cardi B. There was radio stations that I could turn to. I like jazz. I could turn to a jazz station and never even hear about a Cardi B. But now a lot of those outlets has been taken away. You don't have jazz stations no more. So a lot of things is geared to this pop culture, and it's always the response of look, Elvis was shaking his hips on the Ed Sullivan show, and people were like, oh my God, the second coming and Christ is coming, and look at all of this.
The world is ending.
Yeah, and then you had so much so where they had to film them from the waist up. Right. So you had that. You had Woodstock. You had all of these,
all the dirty hippies dancing in the mud.
Exactly. So
of Western civilization.
Trust me, when it comes to entertainment, Cardi B and them are not doing anything new.
They really are not doing anything new. But the point you just made about not being able to turn it off. Here's the interesting thing about that. I think, like you're right. There are like there used to be a jazz station
Right.
in DC that there was R&B, there was popular music, whatever that was,
Right.
there was jazz, and then there was like oldies or whatever.
Yeah. Then you had the what they call it, the top
top 40
top
whatever
40,
it was,
and
you had classic rock.
Right.
Well, all of those stations, most of those stations are owned by the same company.
Exactly. Yep.
And they consolidate their content, so now you have less variety of music. There'll be different genres, like there'll be a rock station, there'll be a black or urban station, and then there'll be the gospel station, right? And that's on the FM dial. Then you'll have stations like Pacifica, the Pacifica stations, WPFW here in DC, where we hear the blues and the jazz and the music from the diaspora.
Right.
But that's the only place we can hear it.
Well, but see, again, this, and I'm glad you brought all of this out, because I think the last time that I read, because there is a road going to where what you're saying. You only have in this country now I think like maybe 2 or 3 black owned stations. One of them is Stevie Wonder's station out in LA. So you only got 2 or 3 really black owned stations. Everything else is owned by Clear Channel, by these other big corporations that basically have taken away the creative control from the DJs, WBLS in New York and places like that. So you only have a few black owned stations. And so you really could tell the difference. You listen to a WDAS in Philly and compare that to a Clear Channel owned station that plays so-called black music. You will see the quality of music is a lot better, because there is the program directors and they have a little bit more control. They're not given a playlist, You know what I mean? So but this comes by us losing ownership of our own stuff. This is the reason why, again, and I'm so glad Jackie brought this up, because this is the importance of us supporting our own media. This is the importance of us supporting our own platforms, because when people who come from outside our community and they co-opt our platforms, and they co-opt our art, and they co-opt these things, then they turn it into a commodified product where they don't care, like any commodity. They don't care how it affects the community. A lot of times, like we talk about the backlash with Cardi B, and we talk about. I mean, look, we were around when they had the backlash against NWA. With 2 Live Crew. When what's her name? Was it I forget the lady's name who led the crusade against gangster rap back in the 90s, the 80s, 90s.
Tipper Gore, and then it was
Dolores.
Dorothy Height.
Dolores C. Tucker.
Dolores Tucker. Tucker.
So even then, you had this element that was like, wow, we need to rein this in, because of it was all about corrupting the values and all stuff. But one of the things that you find out, that every generation finds out, is that young people are going to express themselves whether you like it or not. So so the only thing you could do is just strap in and just hope that I mean, like I said, every generation. Motown was dangerous at that time.
That's true.
Yeah, nobody. You see Motown review. Oh God, here's this race music they used to call.
Race music.
So this has always been, and we've gotten through it. I think that with Cardi B, who, by the way, is the first rapper to go diamond.
Really?
Yeah, she's the first rapper to go diamond. Now, see, I keep my ear to the ground.
You do. You do more than I do.
But she is the first rapper, male or female, who went diamond. So you can't get higher than that in the music industry.
I mean, I'm not mad. And here's the thing. This whole conversation we're having about this particular song isn't really about the quality of the music, because that's subjective.
Right.
Different people like different stuff, and that's fine. And you can. Most people I know have a range of tastes when it comes to, I can appreciate the fun of WAP, as much as I deeply, deeply value the complexities and the cultural significance of jazz, from the early vocalists like
Right.
Sarah Vaughan and, Ella Fitzgerald and Dinah Washington, to, contemporaries and
Right.
the instrumentalist. I love everything in between. But the thing that really killed me about this whole conversation around WAP, Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, and the way people are having a conversation about them, it's not about the stuff we just talked about. It's not about how our music has been pretty much co-opted and taken over by the capitalist corporate interests that stripped all of the social advocacy and the revolutionary roots of hip hop and rap from that, and produced this pre-packaged, formulaic, sex, violence, nihilism, just have fun, don't talk about politics kind of music that it's fine to have fun with, but it doesn't have the social impact that the hip hop and the rap that we created has. They're not talking about that.
Right.
What they're doing is like the flip side of this issue with the Atlanta murders.
Mm-hmm.
They're objectifying Black women and saying that these women of color who are expressing their sexuality of their own free will with their own bodies, that they are they're what's wrong with Black women today. They're what's wrong with women, and they're dirty, and it's just, and they're doing it in response to like things like the recent news that Pepe Le Pew isn't going to be included in the Space Jam sequel.
Of all of the, I mean, I've seen dumbass conversations and debates and I mean, look, I've been around to see some very dumbass debates on what on such the most asinine shit.
Mm-hmm.
But this Pepe Le Pew thing, and I didn't even know, which is why which shows you how I try to avoid this type of stuff, because I didn't even know that was a thing until I heard you talk about it.
And the only reason I talked about it was because people I know personally, who I do not talk to anymore, brought this issue up because they said, they're canceling Pepe Le Pew and all the cartoons that we grew up as a kid, but WAP is okay. That's acceptable. And I had to have a conversation with these people, more than one person, and then I realized other people were having these same kinds of conversations. And I'm thinking, people can't be this stupid, but yes, they actually are. I had to explain to people, first of all, WAP is a song by grown-ass women talking about their own bodies and doing with their own bodies whatever the hell they choose, which they have a right to do. You don't have to like it. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. Nobody's forcing you to listen to it. Pepe Le Pew is a cartoon that was designed for children, that generations of folks sat their children in front of the television to watch. And the cartoon was about a skunk who pursued a cat who did not want him and continually ran from him, but the skunk never stopped chasing and sometimes physically assaulting the cat. Now, as kids, we think that's funny. Ha ha ha, that's so funny.
I didn't think it was funny as a kid. It was one of my least favorite cartoons.
I did not like the cartoon, and as a kid, I didn't understand why I didn't like the cartoon. But as I got older, I understood that there was something very fucked up in the message that was being sent by this cartoon, because here is this female character who doesn't want anything to do with the male character. But the male character is like, fuck you, I don't care what you want. You're going to be mine, and I'm going to get you no matter what it is you want. And that's the serious problem.
But the thing of it is, if you really look at it, now, the reason why I didn't like the cartoon, but now I see that it was really progressive, because Pepe Le Pew was trying to engage in interspecies relationship. because what he was going after was a cat, right? It was a cat.
It was a
Yeah. So even before the non-binary, even before non-gender, even before all of these pronouns and the different pronouns, Pepe Le Pew was on the fringe of change, because he was like, damn it, the hell, I don't have to mate with a skunk. If I look, what is it called?
He was
pansexual, right? Or polyamorous or something.
No, I guess he would have been pan species.
Well, whatever it was, all the stuff that people, that people call themselves now, and they're progressive because I'm polyamorous, I'm pansexual, I'm this, I'm that. Pepe Le Pew beat all of them to the punch. But Pepe Le Pew was like, damn it, the hell, look, I like cats, and I ain't gonna ask no permission about whether I can have this cat.
My God.
And look, and the cat, and I'm gonna pursue this cat because you're not gonna tell me that I gotta stick with skunks.
But the cat didn't want him.
Well, okay,
and that was the point.
But that's another conversation.
I mean, your Pepe was progressive in not caring that this was not a skunk. That's great.
Right.
That's great.
But you're right.
Pepe,
in the era of the Me Too and the all of this, all of this other kind of stuff, it did send the wrong message. Okay, look, the cat obviously didn't want to participate in the interspecies relation.
Said no,
right,
many times.
Right.
And Pepe just wouldn't take no for an answer. Now, as funny as we're trying to make this, because that was Pepe was indeed pan species.
Yeah, he was pan species. Yeah. He was into non-binary stuff long before.
He was. He just didn't know how to take no for an answer, and that's the problem with the messages that was sent by Pepe, by that cartoon. Because when you think about it, when we tell our kids, when our little middle or elementary school kids come home from school and your little elementary school daughter says, Bobby pulled my hair today.
Right.
And you dismiss it. It's like, oh, look, Bobby's just playing, just stay away from him, whatever. The next day she comes back, Bobby pulled my hair again. And this time, I told the teacher, and the teacher didn't do anything. Look, just ignore Bobby. He's just your little boy. You know how little boys are, just stay away from him. Well, a couple days later, then your little daughter comes home and she's telling you that Bobby pulled up my skirt. Bobby touched me. And I told the teacher, and she didn't do anything, or he didn't do anything. And what do we tell our kids? What do we tell our little girls? Well, you know how a little boy shows you that he likes you. That's all he's doing. He just likes you. So we send these weird ass messages to our little girls.
Well, we send the boys too.
Well, that's what I'm getting to.
Because I mean, there was times I've heard when I was in elementary school that if a girl punched you or she tripped you up or something,
and she liked you.
Yeah, she just likes you. She just don't know how to say it.
And it's like, instead of teaching our kids to communicate and to receive communication, when somebody tells you don't put your hands on me, keep your hands to yourself, we send them these bizarre messages that the way other people tell you that they like you is if they assault you.
Well, I mean, but again, that's rooted in the entertainment culture that we were digesting.
There we go.
I mean, how many times have you seen the leading man? He don't ask the woman for a kiss. He just goes up there and just grab her because of this this myth that when a woman says no, she really means yes, or that the alpha male, because this is a thing now too. All this alpha male talk, and so you have these movies where the hero of the movie, he gets the woman at the end, and oh my God, she's just so overpowered by his manliness and and his alpha maleness that she just has to just submit to to his sexual advances. So I mean, this was actually part of the entertainment that we were digesting. I mean, a lot of the music that we were listening to and everything had those elements involved in it. So thank God that these things are starting to change, and that we are starting to realize how misinformed we were by the entertainment we were digesting.
Yeah, and so that's kind of the whole point of or one of the other points in this conversation about WAP and Cardi B and the way we see women as sexual beings. We want to see women as sexual beings, but then we punish women when we are sexual beings, especially if those women are women of color.
Right.
White women can be sexual and sexy all over the place.
Madonna was walking around on stage with just a cunt hair. Well, but I mean, but they applauded that,
She was strutting around in her drawers.
Right.
For years.
Exactly.
People are like, "Ooh, she's cutting edge," but she's in her drawers, and that was okay. And Janet Jackson gets a boob revealed, not by accident, by who was it? Justin Timberlake? Was that him?
I think so.
Yeah, and then Janet Jackson was castigated for that, and not and not Timberlake.
Right.
You had how many white women have paraded around on somebody's award show stage in their drawers over the years?
What was the child's name? Cyrus.
Oh, Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, I mean, and that the pitiful twerking she tried to do, and
first of all,
but again, a lot of these white women what they were trying what they were doing was co-opting black culture. That was Miley Cyrus. She tried to get all ghetto with Nicki Minaj. I think I saw that one time. But but again, it's the co-opting. Somebody had mentioned earlier about Elvis. And how Elvis stole his moves from probably the black people he saw dance around Memphis, Tennessee, or wherever he's from.
Yep.
So but this thing about white women being able to strut their stuff with no clothes on and all this. I mean, well, look at that movie that what's her name came out with some years ago, Striptease and.
Right.
Yeah. So that's all celebrated. Striptease and
when white women do
it. Yeah,
it.
Right.
When white women do it, it's celebrated. When black women, Asian women, Hispanic or Chicano or Latinx women or Chicanx or Latinx women do it, it's the filthiest thing on the planet. And that's white supremacist bullshit.
But it's the same hypocrisy of white supremacy.
Yep, that's the point we're trying to make. And here's the other point we're going to make. I'm fitting to block 2 people in this chat because first of all, we don't do homophobia here. We don't do, gay men like to do this. There is no mass movement of gay men turning straight men. Stop that shit. That is ridiculous. That's ignorant. And that just, oh God. And look, we're not going to go on this. We're just going to ban everything I don't like. That's not the point we're making. And if
the cancel culture thing.
Oh my God. And if who is a bigger cancel culturer than white people? White people tried to cancel the entire culture of a continent. And a people. Tried to cancel an entire people on more than one occasion, on more than one continent. Right. And now they whining about some cancel culture because we don't want to see these sexist cartoons and some racist cartoons that were created by sexists and racists that convey these sexist and racist messages. What? Seriously?
Well, you got, but you got. I mean, and that's a good point that you brought up. Is that when you talk about black people, you got the cancel culture of our language, cancel culture of our religion, the cancel culture of where we're from. That's why so many of us have to take 23andMe just to find out what part of the continent you're from, not where you're from,
right?
But just throw a dart somewhere, and I guess I'm from there. So so that was canceled out. The fact that many of us lost our minds is canceled out. The fact that we feel like we can give other black people a hard time,
can't say nothing bad about white.
Yeah,
folks.
Right. Canceling out the culture of common unity. You know what I mean? So again, I think that you got a point there. So. To make us seem that we're the villains because I could care less really whether you like Pepe Le Pew. I could care less whether they cancel or not cancel Snuffleupagus. I could care less because that is not things that I pay attention to. So I really don't give a damn. If they want to ban Pepe Le Pew, by all means do it. If you want to ban the Cookie Monster, then by all means do it. You know what I mean? I don't care. And so, the fact that you care about it, then that's your right. But it's to me, it's just a waste of time.
I mean, look, if we're talking about creating a better society where all people are valued, we cannot build that society based on some bullshit sexist, racist tropes that people are going to act like aren't problematic.
Right.
No, we're not going to do that.
And then cancel culture is trying to tell people what they can and can't talk about too.
Exactly. So, and seriously, if you don't like what we're talking about here in Luqman Nation on Black Power Media, there are other outlets where you can be welcomed and embraced. But this ain't the place. So anyway, talking about not being welcomed and embraced, what the hell happened in China with this meeting with Biden and Blinken? Well, they wilded.
I think that I like this story because I think that this kind of shed light on a lot of things that we were talking about with respect to internationalism, our struggle, internationalism, and how we none of us live in a vacuum. Mm-hmm. The United States and China, for all of y'all who aren't clowns, the United States and China are the relationship between the United States and China is at an all new low. Now, that might not seem important to a lot of people, but we're talking about two nuclear power countries. China is definitely asserting itself on the world stage, standing up more to American hegemony, American imperialism. And China's got the muscle to do it now. They got the muscle, not only militarily, but they have the muscle economically too. And what we're sitting here witnessing is changes in the global dynamics. And I thank whoever put that thing up. But you know what? We're not that. And I appreciate that comment. But trust me, we're not that sensitive. We're shaken by the stupidity of others. So the world is big enough even for the stupid. So anyway, so the thing of it is that so we're seeing a dynamic here that is that really is going to involve us, because as much as we as Black people don't like to admit it, whatever happens in the world whatever happens in the world happens to us too. So when United States is having beef with a country such as China, that has a lot of implications for those of us who live in the United States. Mm-hmm. But anyway, roll that bean footage.
Roll that beautiful bean footage. Let me see if I can find the beautiful bean footage first. This is from where is this from, hon? This is from Al Jazeera.
This is from Al Jazeera, yeah.
And this is a short video about the meeting in Alaska between the United States and Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, appointed by Joseph Biden, and excuse me, the Chinese officials. So let me make sure I can get all of this.
This is a meeting that will shape future relations between the world's two biggest powers, relations that are currently at a low point.
Good afternoon, and welcome.
Normally, opening remarks at events like these are brief and polite, but the US side went on to list their specific concerns.
In Xinjiang, Hong Kong, Taiwan, cyber attacks on the United States, economic coercion toward our allies.
The Chinese response was long and just as frank. The Foreign Minister Wang Yi said you don't welcome guests with sanctions, a reference to the blacklisting of 24 Chinese and Hong Kong officials in the hours before the meeting. His senior colleague, Politburo member Yang Jiechu, was clearly unhappy.
Well, I think we thought too well of the United States. We thought the US side would follow the necessary diplomatic protocols.
He went on to complain about regime change in the Middle East and the US's own human rights record.
The challenges facing the US in human rights are deep-seated. They did not emerge over the past 4 years. The slaughter of Black people, the problem existed for a long time.
The word slaughter was not translated into English for those in the room by the Chinese delegation's interpreter.
Hold on 1 second, please.
Journalists were about to be ushered out when the Secretary of State made it clear his delegation wanted to speak again.
I just made my first trip, as I noted, to Japan and South Korea. I have to tell you, what I'm hearing is very different from what you described. I'm hearing deep satisfaction that the United States is back, that we're re-engaged with our allies and partners. I'm also hearing deep concern about some of the actions your government is taking.
A confident country is able to look hard at its own shortcomings and constantly seek to improve. And that is the secret sauce of America.
Alaska is a midway point, just over 6,000 kilometers to Beijing, just under 6,000 kilometers to Washington, D.C. This was a meeting that was supposed to build bridges. What we've seen here could be a welcome clearing of the air, or perhaps the beginning of a deepening of the division. It all depends on the crucial talks which now continue behind closed doors. James Bayes, Al Jazeera, Anchorage.
It is.
I don't know if y'all saw the Chinese diplomat as Blinken was talking. Dude was like, "What the fuck? Oh my god!"
Looking at his watch.
How much longer is this shit gonna go on?
Right. Exactly.
I thought, but did you hear the part where the Chinese diplomat brought up the slaughter of Black people in the United States? That was the diplomat from China responding to Anthony Blinken.
Right.
When Blinken brings up this garbage about cyber attacks and this foolishness about, subverting democracy in Hong Kong and the Uyghur concentration camps. Oh, I have so much concerns about that. And then the Chinese diplomat is like, well, y'all kill Black people in the United States. And are you serious?
And the fact that he made it known that this problem wasn't just the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So America can't escape its history as much. And that's the reason why Blinken wanted to talk again, because, see, it didn't go the way he wanted it to go. Because, see, you couldn't have the Chinese having the last word on that by saying, hey, look, let's not forget that, you guys were built on genocide, built on the slave trade, built on all of these other things, right? So what Blinken had to do was he had to do what they always do. Well, South Korea didn't say that. North Korea didn't say that.
Right.
They're glad we're back.
Or Japan.
Well, Japan, they're glad we're back. But see, this has always been America's Achilles heel, is the fact that no matter what they tried to do to present themselves as, this country, this land of freedom and democracy, when they want to not play nice, then they're vulnerable because their history makes them vulnerable. And see, even with a change of administration, China's like, oh, wait a minute. Okay, yeah, you got a new president, but your history hasn't changed. Oh, no, you can't blame all that on Trump. So, and guess what? You want to know how inflammatory this Chinese statement was, that the translator didn't even translate slaughter.
Yeah, they just, the American translator was just like, no, I'm not.
Right.
We're not doing that. Right.
That the American, the one translating for the Americans wouldn't even translate slaughter, the Chinese word for slaughter, into English. So that's that. And I'm so glad that Al Jazeera reported that. We wasn't going to see that on CNN. We wasn't going to see that on Joy Reid's program. We wasn't going to see that on Morning Joe. But the fact of the matter is, our struggle, and this is what we were talking about for the last couple of weeks, our struggle is international. It has always been international. And the fact that we have to realize, as Malcolm said and as others have said, that one of the things that you must have when you're fighting your enemy, one of the things that is in your advantage is that you have to have allies. So you got China now talking about, Britain's not bringing it up.
Nope.
France isn't bringing it up. No, Germany's not bringing it up, right? But you got the second most powerful country on the planet a country that the United States is fearing, which is the reason why that the United States is doing is doing what it can to try to undermine China, is because they know China's about ready to take the #1 spot. And we spoke about this on Luqman Nation, about the way that the Chinese handled the pandemic, the way that the Chinese have organized a society, the fact that China has eliminated severe poverty in their country. Check that out. They had a program of eliminating severe poverty in their country, and they have succeeded. No, poverty isn't abolished, but we're talking about severe poverty. And the only thing we get over here is Biden saying, well, we can cut childhood poverty in half with this new COVID relief package. We can cut it in half. I mean, we're supposed to pat ourselves on the back because only half the kids are starving.
And that's not even true.
Right. But then again, in China, they actually put their resources, their people power, everything together to eliminate severe poverty. So as they take the #1 spot, which is what they're going to do, here they are bringing to the world stage our treatment, our struggle, and they sit on the Security Council.
Yep.
So, so it's ridiculous to sit there and pretend that we don't need allies in this fight. It's ridiculous to sit up here and pretend that this doesn't advance our struggle on a global scale with the diaspora. China is already building the Belt and Roads Project initiative, which is all through now. People can say what they want about, well, China's not our friend either. Well, damn it, the hell, they're more of a friend to us than Europe. Because, like I said, you don't see France sitting with the United States talking about, what about those black people y'all slaughtered? You don't see England sitting in there talking about, you don't see Germany sitting there talking about, you don't see any. All those other countries that I just named are the ones that are persecuting African migrants that are coming from Africa to try to seek a better life from situations, conditions that they themselves have created. So for us to sit up here and think that that this isn't a big deal, you know what I mean? That this isn't a big deal, that you got soon to be the #1 superpower, talking about the slaughter of black people. You Negroes, man, I'm telling you, if there's any Negro that's listening to me out there, Negroes better start understanding that the world is a lot bigger than the city borders and state borders and the country borders that you live in. Because the internationalist slant on that we see emerging here, to me, if we take advantage of that, will propel us a lot further than we ever was propelled before.
You're absolutely right. I mean, and this whole, it's amazing how this meeting happened and these statements were made, and they are the perfect answer to the question some people keep asking about, well, why should we support them, especially in response to these attacks on Asian people here in the United States. And, black people being in solidarity with the Asian community, because we've heard people, well, why should we support them? They don't support us. You got the diplomats from China sitting in front of the Secretary of State to the United States of America, said, let me show you what all he said, because I don't want, how we do not want people to say that the Luqman's just making shit up. No, we're not. We're going to show you exactly what was said. In this meeting, there were Chinese, they always call them the Chinese Communist Party. Right. They make it up, and that's fine because it is. But the top diplomatic officials, Yang Jiechi and Foreign Minister Wang Yi, were two of the people who made statements. The U.S. made a big deal about Hong Kong, the so-called democracy protesters in Hong Kong. Let's be clear about who those democracy protesters in Hong Kong are. They're propped up by the United States. They're funded by the CIA and Western intelligence agencies, and they want to go back to being colonized by Britain. They're imperialists. They are not democracy activists. And keep in mind that Hong Kong is a part of China. So Hong Kong has every damn right to control its borders the way the United States claims that it has a right to control Okay.
And why did and because I told you this,
Mm-hmm.
why the Chinese could have took Taiwan a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
Why have the Chinese committed military action against Taiwan?
Why?
Oh, I thought you was going to answer that.
No, I want you to answer.
Well, because Mao Tse-tung said when they asked him about invading Taiwan and bringing it back into China, China's sovereignty, he said, we spilled enough Chinese blood. And he said, and I don't want Chinese blood being spilled again for Taiwan. That Mao Tse-tung said that.
Right. And as opposed to the United States respecting that, what is the United States doing? Partnering with Taiwan to use Taiwan against China, to use Taiwan and Hong Kong against China. So keep that in mind when the United States brings up democracy protesters in Hong Kong. And as far as the Uyghur Muslim concentration camps and genocide, Blinken also brought that up, and someone asked the question about that in the chat. Yes, that's all propaganda. All of that comes from some right-wing German evangelical Christian named Adrian Zenz, who created some report with a bunch of unsubstantiated claims in it that this administration and the one before it have just run with it. It actually started a few administrations before now, and it's all anti-Chinese propaganda. And the United States government is not recognizing the problem with extremist Muslim sects.
Well, yeah.
That they have had an issue with, and instead of just, drone bombing people like the United States does, they have worked hard to give people in these border communities a more stable life so they won't be extremists.
And what they don't, and what they fail to mention is that propaganda with China's human rights thing. Now, I'm not saying that China, all governments do it, but the thing of it is that I remember coming up as a kid when it was the Christians that the Chinese were persecuting.
Right.
They couldn't have Bibles. They couldn't have this. They couldn't have that. And you had Pat Robertson and all of them on TV talking about we have to save the Christians of China and all. So now they went from persecuting Christians. I guess there's no more Christians left. So now they got to persecute Muslims. So, we have to be sophisticated enough to understand when we're being played. And that's it. They can save Christians in China, but can't save Christians in Palestine.
Right. They can save Muslims in China now, but they don't want to save Muslims anywhere else in the world that they're bombing Muslims.
Right. Yeah, a lot of the Palestinians are Christians, but you don't hear the Pat Robertsons and them talking about let's save the Christian community from Israeli aggression when it comes to that. But no, we got to save the Christians in China. So it's all a bunch of crock.
It is all a bunch of crock. So these are the comments that were made. China is firmly opposed to U.S. interference in China's internal affairs. We have expressed our staunch opposition to such interference, and we will take firm actions in response, Yang warned. Then he talked about, for 16 minutes, he talked about what he said was the U.S. is struggling democracy, that ain't a lie, and its poor treatment of minorities, and criticized U.S. foreign and trade policies. This was the Chinese diplomat who talked about the poor treatment of Black folks in the United States. He went on to say, the United States uses its military force and financial hegemony to carry out long-arm jurisdiction and suppress other countries. It abuses so-called notions of national security to obstruct normal trade exchanges and incite some countries to attack China.
Yes.
And then he said, I love this one. He said, this is not supposed to be the way one should welcome his guests. He's like, y'all trashy, you lie, you kill Black people in your country, and you're a bunch of boors.
And you have no culture, no class, no culture.
You ain't got no class, you ain't got no home training, you don't know how to treat your guests, you just shitty. I mean, of course, they're not going to say that. But here's one of the other comments that was made. I want to make sure I get it so I don't have to hunt around for it. There we go. So this is was reported in AP, and it says that China blasts the U.S. evil past of genocide at the UN. At the UN, where the UN Human Rights Council.
Exactly.
China raised the issue of the United States government and its history of genocide, not just against indigenous people, but also against Black people.
Now let me add this here. Now, are we saying that China is doing this because they have love for Black people, and it's not in their own interest? Of course, it's in their own selfish national interest, but we don't give a fuck. You know what I mean? Because look, nobody was going to the human rights. Not a country as powerful as China was going to the United Nations Human Rights Commission on our behalf, on the behalf of the Native Americans, on the behalf of all of the blood that was shed in this country and abroad by American interests. So it's not about, well, they don't really like Black people. They don't really this and that. We don't give a shit. The thing, what we're trying to do is get our struggle out there on the world stage. Mm-hmm. We don't give a damn why they doing it. All we care about is, look, we are pushing along our struggle.
Right.
So that's what I wanted to add.
Exactly. And it's clear that China doesn't need anybody. Did you call anybody?
Nope, I sure did not.
I did not call anyone.
Yep.
Did any of you call anybody and say, hey, could you guys please raise these? No.
Right.
The rest of the world knows the history of the United States in regard to these issues. And to the point where Jian Duan, this is another Chinese official, a counselor at the Chinese mission in Geneva, voiced criticism at the end of an examination of the U.S. rights record at the Human Rights Council. And this is part of a regular review faced by all countries at the United Nations for which is the top human rights body. In a brief but sharp statement, this is after the United States criticized China over those bullshit, accusations of violating the rights of protesters in Hong Kong and, the bullshit Muslim Uyghur concentration camp garbage. Jiang said that U.S. military interventions abroad had resulted in tremendous deaths of civilians and faulted U.S. forces for having slaughtered innocent civilians and conducted torture in other countries. He also said the U.S. He also said the U.S. neither apologizes for its evil past of genocide nor provides reparation to the victims. A Chinese diplomat, through no compulsion from United States individuals, organizations, as far as we know, nobody called this dude, right, talked to him, asked him, begged him, paid him to, all by himself, brought up the issue of the United States, its past of genocide, its continued oppression and abuse of torture and of civilians, and their refusal to provide reparations. So don't come here with this ignorant bullshit about what have other countries done to help and support us. But I
also want to say, because Big Till made a point, and I think it's a valid point. Mm-hmm. He said, that it's true about getting our stuff out there on the world stage, but should we be careful of not allowing others to appropriate our struggle? And I understand that. It's a legitimate thing.
Sure.
But that is the reason. But they can't appropriate our struggle if we are still in the game. And what I mean is, this is what organization is for. This is what all of these other things. This is what our own platforms are for. China didn't just start doing this because they woke up one day and say, well, let's fight for Black people. No, China. Right. We got to understand that that it's not just China. There's also countries that from the Middle East. There's countries in Africa that have brought up the same thing. One of the things we fail to understand, and we had spoke about this on the show before, is that this isn't the first time that international pressure has embarrassed the United States. We talked on the show about during the Kennedy administration, how the mistreatment of African diplomats have embarrassed the United States so much that they had to go up and down Route 40 telling all the segregationists, look, if you got these black people wearing these funny clothes coming here, don't discriminate against them, because it was embarrassing them. That when they were showing Bull Connor and during the civil rights, when they were showing Africans down south, black people down south, being assaulted with water hoses and dogs and stuff. Those pictures went around the world. The United States had to answer these questions in the United Nations by these countries. It's like, why are y'all treating your own people like that? You say they're citizens. Why are they treating? So this is not the first time that that international pressure has come upon the United States, and the United States has been embarrassed by this. But now the difference is that during those times that I mentioned previously, those nations weren't in the economic and military position to confront the United States until now.
That's right. So we have to, as Ricky Ryan said a few comments up, we have to be strategic. Don't let this information, this is why we shared it with you. Don't let this knowledge just, disappear into the ether. Use it. We have to use it. These people they not only went to the international body that handles human rights abuses around the world, they directly confronted the representatives of the government that carries them out.
Right.
How do you know this and not capitalize on that? So the question becomes, how do we capitalize on that? And I think that might be a conversation that we need to cultivate for our next show.
Exactly.
But trust and believe, y'all, when we have been saying that Pan-Africanism is the only way, internationalism and international working class solidarity is the only way we are going to beat this system, we were not kidding. And as you've just seen, other people around the world know this. They just been waiting for us.
Yep. And I just want to say this, because one of the things that let me go. But no. But what I'm saying is that you're right. This is the Pan-Africanist goal, is the fact that once we organize, thank you, Ricky, organize, then when we start putting our own infrastructure in place, wouldn't it be nice to have an economic partner like China supporting our infrastructure when we go buy land and we start building our own shit? Wouldn't it be nice to have a trade with somebody like an economic? I mean, it's been done before. We spoke about how the Nation of Islam, Gaddafi was giving money to the Nation of Islam to buy land. One was like $5 million for the Nation of Islam to start a homegrown business. I mean, other nations have given money to black organizations from the Middle East and other places, to black organizations, in order to fund self-determination here. So yeah, there's been corruption. There's been a whole lot of stuff. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. But we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So when we start to build our infrastructure, when we start to build what we need and stop begging somebody to please recognize us as Americans. Oh, please, didn't we work so hard for you in the past? We built this country. Don't we deserve something? You know what I mean? So we need to start building for ourselves. And when we're in a position of strength, you negotiate from strength, not from weakness.
Yeah, and I think that we've got to build that strength. So that's our show for this week. That's our.
Well, I want to talk one more thing too.
Oh yeah, what you got?
Because Marcus says something here, which is, and we don't shy.
This one?
Yeah, we don't shy away from those things, because I think you're right. I think that we need. He said that's very true, but the people who aren't looking to unite globally aren't looking to destroy the system. They just want their trinkets in the system just as it is. And Marcus, look, one of the things, and you're right, and one of the things on Luqman Nation that we say is, if that's the record you want to dance to, then dance to that record. You know what I mean? It's not the record that I want to dance to. But if you want to dance, because we have to get out as black people, or however you want to identify yourself, we have to get out of this mentality that we have to have the perfect movement, that all cylinders have to be on this, before we can move forward. No, there's going to be, as we know from our past organizations, there's going to be the infiltrators. There's going to be the ones who sit on the sideline. There's going to be the ones that want to throw needles in front of us, obstacles in front of us, and then But every struggle. You think that the Cuban Revolution didn't have those type of people? You think that the Mau Mau's didn't have to deal with those type of people?
The Haitian Revolution didn't have
exactly.
those
You think you didn't have Uncle Tom Haitians that liked it on the plantation? Or Sambo Haitians. But what my point being is, we have to move forward regardless, and we can't sit back and say that we ain't got all black people on board, so I guess that's it. Nah. You want to dance to that record of begging the American government for reparations, then dance to that record. We know, and history has shown us, that it's better to negotiate from a position of strength. Because, as Frederick Douglass said, power doesn't concede anything.
Nope,
without a demand. You know what I mean? And that demand has to come from a position of strength.
Yep. So, look, you organize with who wants to organize with you. You can't drag people along in the struggle kicking and screaming. You organize with who wants to organize with you, and you build your base of power around solidarity, people who want to struggle with you. Because we're going to have to struggle internally as we struggle externally, but that's why the call is forward ever, backward never. So
what's the here's a riddle. What is the hardest thing to gain from a black organization?
I don't know what.
The hardest thing to get from a black organization is the last word.
You are terrible. So we appreciate y'all so much. Thank you for joining us. Once again, if you didn't hit the like button, hit the like button. Share, subscribe, join Black Power Media. Somebody mentioned earlier that we should be on Twitch. This actually is being streamed on Twitch, as are a few other.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know what it is either. It was just one of the options on the thing, and I just pushed the button. So I don't know. It could be a covert OnlyFans page for all I know. We might have to take our clothes off in a minute. I'm not sure, but
nobody wants to see me. But anyway, thank you for that suggestion, though.
So. We appreciate you. At 7 p.m., stick around. Episode 7 of The Last Dope Intellectual is premiering right after that, where you'll actually see more of us.
Right.
And some other great stuff from our friend and comrade, Dr. Sharice Burdistelli. Hey, as always, as the eternal chairman, Fred Hampton, said, I say to you, peace, if you're willing to fight for it, and we have got to fight for it. So, peace, y'all. Deuces. Which one am I picking? Okay.
How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. Had them on line before I dial up. How they claiming they on top and I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in, but don't you dare give up now. Poe believed in me, pull up through some bucks down. Todd told the valet pull the truck round. Push the line up that we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. And name the best from my region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind.